Shabbat Shalom, happy Sabbath, Bishop Israel. So the Holy Spirit, wisdom, she has it on my spirit to do a lesson on Sarah and Abraham. So I am going to do this, and I guess I can call it kind of a Bible study / lesson. I know we all can't be together in the same places, so I thought I'd make a video and, enlighten y'all on some things that I have learned. Now, let's talk about beauty. Sarah was very beautiful and fair, and the Most High does raise up females that are extremely, extremely pretty. But there is a purpose for it. And with Sarah, one of her purposes was, bringing wealth to our people. And a lot of people don't really realize that until you actually read the story. So I'm going to start in Genesis, in the Bible. Get you a King James, and then I'm going to go into the Book of Jasher to enlighten you a little bit more. But I think, this is more so for the women, just to give y'all a glimpse and just some enlightenment, what I'm saying, on yourselves, how you should handle, things, and who you should look up to, So I'm going to get started and just let the Spirit take me where we're going to go with it. So, and hopefully you get some enlightening on, the Most High, get even closer to Him, and maybe see things that after I'm done, see things in a light that you didn't even think about or see. So, when things came to my understanding, I said, okay, and I just wanted to share this with everybody. So I know it's been a minute since I made a video, so I'm getting on that right now. Okay, let me get started. You're going to need Genesis 12. We're going to start at verse 11, because I'm going to prove to you about beauty, like how the Most High sometimes, raises up these, women of beauty, and they have an effect. So we're going to talk about this, because beauty isn't necessarily a bad thing, Okay, Genesis 12:11. And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai, his wife, Behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, and they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. And it came to pass that when Abraham was come into Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman, that she was very fair. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her, and commanded her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And he entreated Abraham well for her sake. And he had sheep and oxen, and he had asses, and manservants and maidservants, and she asses and camels. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abraham's wife. And Pharaoh called Abraham and said, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife? Why saidst thou, She is my sister, so I might have taken her to me I might have taken her to me to wife. Now therefore, behold thy wife, take her and go thy way. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had. And Abraham, where I'm 13 now, and Abraham went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. And I'm going to stop right there. There is, when you read the Book of Jasher, you find out there is many occasions where the Most High used Sarai for this very thing with the pharaohs in Egypt. There was a couple of situations where Abraham kept doing the same thing, because of Sarah's beauty. He kept just saying, she's my sister, and then he would end up walking out with a ton of profit, mad loot, all of that. And so we're going to get into that. So I'm opening in the Book of Jasher, and I'm going to kind of dig a little bit deeper into this to show you. Okay, so you need the Book of Jasher, chapter 15, and we're going to start at verse 1. That's page 41, so that you can find it faster. Anyway, and in that year there was a heavy famine throughout the land of Canaan, and the inhabitants of the land could not remain on account of the famine, for it was very grievous. And Abraham and all belonging to him rose and went down to Egypt on account of the famine. And when they were at the brook Mizraim, they remained there some time to rest from the fatigue of the road. And Abraham saw Sarai, were walking at the border of the brook Mizraim, and Abraham beheld his wife Sarai, that she was very beautiful. And Abraham said to his wife Sarai, since God has created thee with such a beautiful countenance, I am afraid of the Egyptians, lest they should slay me and take thee away, for the fear of God is not in this place. Surely then thou shalt do this, say thou art my sister, to all that may ask thee, in order that it may be well with me, and that we may live and not be put to death. And Abraham commanded the same to all those that came with him to Egypt on account of the famine. Also his nephew Lot he commanded, saying, it that Egyptians ask thee concerning Sarai, say she is the sister of Abraham. And yet with all these orders Abraham did not put confidence in them, but he took Sarai and placed her in a chest and concealed it among their vessels. For Abraham was greatly concerned about Sarai on account of the wickedness of the Egyptians. And Abraham and all belonging to him rose up from the brook Mizraim and came to Egypt. And they scarcely entered the gates of the city when the guards stood up to them, saying, give tithe to the king from what you have, and then you may come into the town. And Abraham and those that were with him did so. And Abraham with the people that were with him came to Egypt. And when they came, they brought the chest in which Sarai was concealed. And the Egyptians saw the chest. And the king's servants approached Abraham, saying, what hast... Give me 1 second, I have to turn the page. What hast thou here in the chest which we have not seen? Now open thou the chest, and give tithe to the king of all that it contains. And Abraham said, this chest I will not open, but all you demand upon it I will give. And Pharaoh's officers answered Abraham, saying, it is a chest of precious stones. Give us the tenth thereof. And Abraham said, all that you desire I will give, but you must not open the chest. And the king's officers pressed Abraham, and they reached the chest and opened it with force. And they saw, and behold, a beautiful woman was in the chest. And when the officers of the king beheld Sarai, They were struck with admiration at her beauty, and all the princes and servants of Pharaoh assembled to see Sarai, for she was very beautiful. And the king's officers ran and told Pharaoh all that they had seen, and they praised Sarai to the king. And Pharaoh ordered her to be brought, and the woman came before the king. And Pharaoh beheld Sarai, and she pleased him exceedingly, and he was struck with her beauty. And the king rejoiced greatly on her account, and made present to those who brought him tidings concerning her. And the woman was then brought to Pharaoh's house, and Abraham grieved on account of his wife, and he prayed to the Lord to deliver her from the hand of Pharaoh. And Sarai also prayed at the time, and said, O Lord God, thou didst tell my lord Abraham to go from his land, and from his father's house to the land of Canaan, and thou didst promise to do, one second, I got little sticky tabs like holding on my pages. Okay. Promise to do well with him if he would perform thy command. Now behold, we have done that which thou didst command us, and we have left our land and our families, and we went to a strange land and to a people whom we have not known before. And we came to this land to avoid the famine, and this evil accident has befallen me. Now therefore, O Lord God, deliver us and save us from this hand of this oppressor, and do well with me for the sake of thy mercy. And the Lord hearkened to the voice of Sarai, and the Lord sent an angel to deliver Sarai from the power of Pharaoh. And the king came and sat before Sarai, and behold, an angel of the Lord was standing over them. And he appeared to Sarai and said to her, Do not fear, for the Lord has heard thy prayer. And the king approached Sarai and said to her, What is that man to thee who brought thee hither? And she said, He is my brother. And the king said, It is incumbent upon us to make him great, to elevate him, and to do unto him all the good which thou shalt command us. And at that time the king sent to Abraham silver and gold and precious stones in abundance, together with cattle, men, servants, and maidservants. And the king ordered Abraham to be brought. And she sat in the court of the king's house, and the king greatly exalted Abraham on that night. And the king approached to speak to Sarai, and he reached out his hand to touch her, when the angel smote him heavily, and he was terrified, and he refrained from reaching to her. And when the king came near to Sarai, the angel smote him to the ground, and acted thus to him the whole night. And the king was terrified. And the angel on that night smote heavily all the servants of the king and his whole household on account of Sarai. And there was a great lamentation that night amongst the people of Pharaoh's house. And Pharaoh, seeing the evil that befell him, said, Surely on account of this woman has this thing happened to me. And he removed himself at some distance from her, and spoke pleasing words to her. And the king said to Sarai, Tell me, I pray thee, concerning the man with whom thou camest here. And Sarai said, This man is my husband. And I said to thee that he was my brother, for I was afraid lest thou shouldest put him to death through wickedness. And the king kept away from Sarai, and the plagues of the angel of the Lord ceased from him and his household. And Pharaoh knew that he was smitten on the account of Sarai, and the king was greatly astonished at this. And in the morning the king called for Abraham and said to him, What is this thou hast done to me? Why did thou say, She is my sister, owing to which I took her unto me for a wife, and this heavy plague has therefore come upon me and my household. Now therefore, here is thy wife. Take her and go from our land, lest we all die on her account. And Pharaoh took more cattle, men servants, maid servants, and silver, gold to give to Abraham. And he returned unto him Sarai his wife. And the king took a maiden whom he had begot by the concubines, and he gave her to Sarai for a handmaid. And the king said to his daughter, now, I'm gonna elaborate. This is when Hagar comes in, and it's the king's daughter. So I want you to plug that in for a second, because he had many concubines, and it's his daughter. And when you think back to Egyptian times, they didn't even care. They would even smash their own kin. So I just want you to plug this in your mind for 1 second. Why he's telling Hagar this stuff. But okay, let me continue to read. Let me pick it up back at 31. It says, and the king took a maiden whom he had begot by his concubine, and he gave her to Sarai for a handmaid. And the king said to his daughter, it is better for thee, my daughter, to be a handmaid in this man's house than to be a mistress in mine, and to be a mistress in my house, after we have beheld the evil that befell us on account of this woman. And Abraham arose, and he and all belonging to him went away from Egypt, and Pharaoh ordered some of his men to accompany him and all that went with him. And Abraham returned to the land of Canaan, in the place where he had made an altar, where he at first had pitched his tent. So when you look at that, that's when he first got the handmaiden book. They didn't give her name yet, but I'm going to read that to you in a minute. Now, before I continue in Jasher, I want to continue in Genesis. So we're going to go to Genesis 15, and I want to point out some things. So let's start 15:1. After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abraham in a vision, saying, fear not, Abraham, I am thy shield and thy exceedingly great reward. Keep in mind right now that that's Yeshua talking, Christ, and he's saying that he's telling Abraham, I am thy exceedingly great reward. Well, why would he be saying that? Of course, because he really is our exceedingly great reward. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have a chance to come back to Ahaya again. So he's basically, when he's getting ready to tell Abraham everything that's going to befall, us and him, he's just breaking it down simple and sweet. Alright, so after these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abraham in a vision, saying, fear not, Abraham, I am thy shield and thy exceedingly great reward. And Abraham said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus? And Abraham said, behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is my heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, this shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thy own bowels shall be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad, and said, look now towards heaven, and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, so shall thy seed be. And he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur, out of the Chaldees, to give thee the land to inherit it. And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, take me a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these, and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another. But the birds divided he not. And when the fowl came down upon the carcass, Abraham drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abraham, and lo, an horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abraham, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years, and also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to the fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And it came to pass that when the sun went down, it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passeth between those pieces. In the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying unto thy seed, have I given this land from the river of Egypt unto the great river and the river Euphrates, the Kenites and the Kenzanites and the Cadmonites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and Raphaims, and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Girgashites and Jebusites. Alright, now we're going to move on to 16, elaborating more. Okay. Now Sarai, Abraham's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abraham, behold, now the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptians, after Abraham had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abraham to be his wife. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived, and when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said unto Abraham, my wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid into thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between me and thee. And Abraham said unto Sarai, behold, thy maid is in thy hands. Do to her as it pleaseth thee. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of the water in the wilderness, by a fountain in the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, whence camest thou, and whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarai. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, return to thy mistress, and submit thyself under her hands. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, behold, thou art with child, and thou shalt bear a son, and thou shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. And she called the name of the Lord that spake unto her, Thou God seest me. For she said, have I also here looked after him that seeth me? Wherefore the well was called Belaharoi. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Beard. And Hagar bare Abraham a son, and Abraham called the son's name which Hagar bare Ishmael. And Abraham was 86 years old when Hagar bare Ishmael and Abraham. So we're going to go to Jasher now. So I wanted to start from, the chapters that I went in, so you kind of follow along as we get deeper into the story between Sarah and Abraham and Hagar and so on. Okay, so I read Genesis first, but as you can see, I told you that when we was reading in the Book of Jasher that I will point out that the daughter that the Pharaoh had gave, which was the handmaiden that he had gave to Sarai, was Hagar. So we're about to get into that. So you need to turn to chapter 16, verse 23, which is on page 46. So we're going to start there. Okay. And Sarah, the daughter of Haran, Abraham's wife, was still barren in those days. She did not bear to Abraham either son or daughter. And when she saw that she bare no children, she took her handmaid Hagar, whom Pharaoh had given her. See, there it goes right there. He gave, Hagar to her, which was his daughter. So she was technically royalty, but like Egyptian royalty. You know what I'm saying? Okay, let's see. When she saw that she bare no children, she took her handmaid Hagar, whom Pharaoh had given her, and she gave her to Abraham, her husband, for a wife. For Hagar learned all the ways of Sarai, as Sarai taught her. She was not in any way deficient in following her good ways. And Sarai said to Abraham, Behold, here is my handmaid Hagar. Go to her, that she may bring forth upon my knees, that I may also obtain children through her. And at the end of the 10 years of Abraham dwelling in the land of Canaan, which is the 85th year of Abraham's life, Sarai gave Hagar unto him. And Abraham hearkened to the voice of his wife Sarai, and he took his handmaid Hagar. And Abraham came to her, and she conceived. And when Hagar saw that she had conceived, she rejoiced greatly, and her mistress was despised in her eyes. And she said within herself, This can only be that I am better before God than Sarai, my mistress. For all the days that my mistress has been with my Lord, she did not conceive, but me the Lord has caused in so short a time to conceive by him. When Sarai saw that Hagar had conceived by Abraham, Sarai was jealous of her handmaid, and Sarai said within herself, This is surely nothing else but that she must be better than I am. And Sarai said unto Abraham, My wrong be upon thee, for at the time when thou didst pray before the Lord for children, why didst thou not pray on my account, that the Lord should give me seed from thee? And when I spake to Hagar in thy presence, she despiseth my words, because she has conceived, and thou wilt say nothing to her. May the Lord judge between me and thee for what thou hast done to me. And Abraham said to Sarai, Behold, thy handmaid is in thy hand. Do unto her as it may seem good in thy eyes. And Sarai afflicted her, and Hagar fled from her in the wilderness. And the angel of the Lord found her in the place where she had fled by a well. And he said to her, Do not fear, I will multiply thy seed, for thou shalt bear a son, and thou shalt call his name Ishmael. Now then return to Sarai thy mistress, and submit thyself under her hands. And Hagar called the place of the well Beth-laharoi. It is between Kadesh and the wilderness of Bered. And Hagar at the time returned to her master's house, and at the end of the days Hagar bare a son, and to Abraham, and Abraham called his name Ishmael. And Abraham was 86 years old when he begot him. Alright, so now we know that Abraham was, 86 years old. Sarah and him, they're getting up there in age, but she's still beautiful. How do we know this? Because we are going to go into the book of Jasher to chapter 20. And we're going to find out very much so that Sarah is still beautiful. So I'm guessing back in them days, because all the food wasn't completely tampered with or anything, that they were, their 80s, they was probably still looking like they was, 30 or something like that. Who knows? But she was still very beautiful. And so on occasion, when I said, beauty is not necessarily a bad thing, and the Most High will actually use women sometimes to, to get the job done, get things done. So, it's a fact. Look at the Holy Spirit, a feminine spirit. He's using the image of his goodness, his wifey right there to handle business. So that's, another example. So, turn to chapter 20. We're going to start at, we'll start at 1. I was going to start at 2, but we'll start at 1. All right. So it says, "And at the time Abraham journeyed from the plain of Mamre, and he went to the land of Palestine, and he dwelt in Gerar. It was in the 25th year of Abraham being in the land of Canaan, and the 100th year of the life of Abraham, and he came to Gerar in the land of the Philistines. And when they entered the land, he said to Sarah, his wife, Say thou art my sister to anyone that shall ask thee, in order that we may escape the evil of the inhabitants of the land. And as Abraham was dwelling in the land of Palestine, the servants of Amalek, king of Palestine, saw that Sarah was exceedingly beautiful, and they asked Abraham concerning her, and he said, She is my sister. And the servants of Amalek went to Amalek, saying, A man from the land of Canaan is come to dwell in the land, and he has a sister that is exceedingly fair. And Amalek heard the words of his servant, who praised Sarah to him. And Amalek sent his officers, and they brought Sarah to the king. And Sarah came to the house of Amalek. And the king saw that Sarah was beautiful, and she pleased him exceedingly. And he approached her and said to her, What is that man to thee, with whom thou didst come to our land? And Sarah answered and said, He is my brother, and we came from the land of Canaan to dwell wherever we could find a place. And Amalek said to Sarah, Behold, my land is before thee. Place thy brother in any part of this land, and that pleases thee, and it will be our duty to exalt and elevate him above all the people of the land, since he is thy brother. And Amalek sent for Abraham, and Abraham came to Amalek, and Amalek said to Abraham, Behold, I have given order that thou shalt be honored, and thou dearest on account of thy sister Sarah. And Abraham went forth from the king, and the king's present followed him. And at evening time, before men lie down to rest, the king was sitting upon his throne, and a deep sleep fell upon him. And he laid upon the throne and slept till morning. And he dreamed that an angel of the Lord came to him with a drawn sword in his hand, and the angel stood over Amalek and wished to slay him with the sword. And the king was terrified in his dreams, and said to the angel, In what have I sinned against thee, that thou comest to slay me with a sword? And the angel answered and said to Amalek, Behold, thou didst on account of the woman which thou didst yesterday night bring to thy house, for she is a married woman, the wife of Abraham, who came to thy house. Now therefore return the man his wife, for she is his wife. And shouldest thou not return her, know that thou wilt surely die, thou and all belonging to thee. And on that night there was a great outcry in the land of Palestine, and the inhabitants of the land saw the figure of a man standing with a drawn sword in his hand, and he smote the inhabitants of the land with the sword. He continued to smite them. And the angel of the Lord smote the whole land of the Palestine on that night. And there was a great confusion on that night and on the following morning. And every womb was closed, and all their issues and the hand of the Lord was upon them on account of Sarai's wife and Abraham, whom Amalek had taken. And in the morning Amalek rose with terror and confusion and with a great dread, and he sent and had his servants call in, and he related his dream to them, and the people were greatly afraid. And one man standing amongst the servant of the king answered the king, saying, O sovereign king, restore this woman to her husband, for he is her husband. For the like happened to the king of Egypt when this man came to Egypt, and he was concerning, and he said concerning his wife, she is my mistress, for such is his manner of doing when he cometh to dwell in the land in which he is a stranger. And Pharaoh sent and took this woman for a wife, and the Lord brought upon him grievous plagues until he returned the woman to her husband. I'm sorry, I'm sitting here reading this cracking up at the same time, because the Most High be having me rolling how he does stuff. Like, I mean, it was hilarious to me. How he did it, like how he sets everything up. Like, people are willingly giving over power. He's literally he's using his creation. You know what I'm saying? Sarai, she's beautiful. He keeps bringing her to all the royalty, and he knows their desire and stuff like that. And they, you know what I'm saying, they have her there long enough to end up yielding all their cattle, some money, and all of that stuff, you know, over to Abraham. And then next thing you know, the angel's like, oh, I'm gonna get you if you do this. Like, don't touch her. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's I don't know. I just find it amazing and hilarious. But I love how the Most High, like, his works is, like, how he does things. Alright, let me get back to the story. Now therefore, O sovereign king, know what happened yesterday night to the whole land, for there was a very great consternation and a great, hold on, let me move my little sticky tab here, pain and lamentation. And we know that this was on account of the woman which thou didst take. Now therefore restore this woman to her husband, lest it should befall us as it did to Pharaoh king of Egypt and his subjects, and that we may not die. And Amalek hastened and called, and had Sarah called for, and she came before him, and he had Abraham called for, and he came before him. And Amalek said to them, what is this works you have been doing, in saying you are brother and sister, and I took this woman for a wife? And Abraham said, because I thought I should suffer death on account of my wife. And Amalek took flocks and herds and men servants and maid servants and 1,000 pieces of silver, and he gave them to Abraham, and he returned Sarah to him. And Amalek said to Abraham, behold, the whole land is before thee, dwell in it wherever thou shalt choose. And Abraham and Sarah his wife went forth from the king's presence with honor and respect, and they dwelt in the land, even in Gerar. And all the inhabitants of the land of Palestine and the king's servants were still in pain through the plague which the angel had inflicted upon them the whole night on account of Sarai. On account of Sarah. And Amalek sent for Abraham, saying, pray now for thy servants to the Lord thy God, that he may put away this mortality from amongst us. And Abraham prayed on the account of Amalek and his subjects, and the Lord heard the prayers of Abraham, and he healed Amalek and all his subjects. So that was a nice thing to do. Okay, so now I'm being told Bible walk to open up to Galatians 4. I can go ahead and read this whole thing in Paul's writings, or I can just skip down to 22, to 4 verse 22. But Paul is talking here, and Walk's got me putting a precept together right now. I love how she works when she reveals stuff. Now let's just go ahead and read this whole thing. It said, we'll start at, in your Bible, go to Galatians 4, and we're going to read from 1 all the way to 31. And it says, now I see that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from the servant, though he be Lord of all, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. Even so, we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. But when the fullness of the time was come, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons, and become ye our sons. God hath sent forth the Spirit of his Son into the hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son, and if a son, then an heir of God through Christ. Howbeit then, when he knew not God, he did service unto them which by nature are no gods. But now, after that ye have known God, or rather are known of God, how turn ye again to the weak and beggarly elements, whereunto ye desire again to be in bondage? Ye observe days and months and times and years. I am afraid of you, lest I have bestowed upon you labor in vain. Brethren, I beseech you be as I am, for I am as ye are. Ye have not injured me at all. Ye know how through infirmity of the flesh I preached the gospel unto you at first, and my temptation which was in my flesh you despised not nor rejected, but received me as an angel of God, even as Christ Yeshua. Wherein then the blessedness ye spake of, for I bear you record that if it had been possible, ye would have plucked out your own eyes and have given them to me. Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? They zealously affected you, but not well. They would exclude you, that ye might afflict them. But it is good to be zealously affected always in a good thing, and not only when I am present with you. My little children, of whom I travail in birth again until Christ be formed in you, I desire to be present with you now, and to change my voice, for I stand in doubt of you. Tell me, ye that desire to be under the law, do ye not hear the law? For it is written that Abraham had 2 sons, the one by a bondmaid and the other by a free woman. But he who was the bondwoman was born after the flesh, but he of the free woman was by the promise. Which things are an allegory, for these are the 2 covenants, that one from the Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage, which is Hagar. For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is in bondage with her children. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of all of us. The mother of us all. For it is written, Rejoice, thou barren that bearest not, break forth and cry, thou that travail not, for the desolate hath many more children than she which hath a husband. Now we, brethren, as Isaac was, are the children of promise. But as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the Spirit, even so it is now. Nevertheless, what saith the Scriptures? Cast out the bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir, and the son of the free woman. So then, brethren, Nevertheless, what saith the Scriptures? Cast out the bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with the son of the free woman. So then, brethren, we are not children of bondwoman, but of the free. So, in that instance, he's talking Hagar and Sarai, Ishmael and Isaac, and Isaac being the free seed. So you have Hagar would be the bond woman, and then you have Sarai, who is the free woman. So if you're born of the seed of spirit, basically you are from Sarah. If you're born of the bondwoman, you are stemming from Hagar. And it said that there was 2 covenants made. So the Most High did say that he would multiply both of them seeds. But only one of them gets the promise. I just wanted to point that out. And Paul basically was just, saying like, when we went through that whole thing, he was just saying like, these people afflict you. You're let me look at it and see where she's got me going with this. Basically it was talking about like the temptations that we go through, and Paul is saying here like, what do you basically on his, what are you guys doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, you following fallen angels for one, because he said, let me see, it was Galatians 4 verse 8, howbeit then, when ye knew not God, ye did service unto them which by nature are no gods. Well, who would you be serving if you're in some type of a bondage for not listening? It's these fallen angel deities, He said, ye observe days and months and times and years. That's on verse 10. And basically Paul's like, I'm afraid for you, So he's trying to tell them like, what are you doing? Like, you're not in bondage. You're free. Stop doing what you're doing and follow basically the law, statutes, and commandments, because that's what you need to be doing. So, okay, we got that. And I guess we can go back to Jasher now, because she's going to have me get more in depth on Miss bondwoman and free woman over here, and Ishmael and so on. So let's just get to that. Let me get my book here. Okay, so you need chapter 25. We'll start at verse 11, and that is on page 58. Okay. And Ishmael, the son of Abraham, was grown up in those days. He was 14 years old when Sarah bare Isaac to Abraham. And God was with Ishmael, the son of Abraham, and he grew up, and he learned the use of the bow, and became an archer. And when Isaac was 5 years old, he was sitting with Ishmael at the door of the tent. And Ishmael came to Isaac and seated himself opposite to him. And he took the bow and drew it, and put the arrow in it, and intended to slay Isaac. And Sarah saw the act which Ishmael desired to do to her son Isaac, and it grieved her exceedingly on the account of her son. And she sent from Abraham She sent for Abraham and said to him, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for her son shall not be heir with my son, for thus did he seek to do unto him this day. And Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarah, and he rose up early in the morning. He took 12 loaves and a bottle of water, which he gave to Hagar, and sent her away with her son. And Hagar went with her son to the wilderness, and they dwelt in the wilderness of Paran with the inhabitants of the wilderness. And Ishmael was an archer, and he dwelt in the wilderness a long time. And he and his mother afterward went to the land of Egypt, and they dwelt there. And Hagar took a wife for her son from Egypt, and her name was Meribah. And the wife of Ishmael conceived and bare 4 sons and 2 daughters. And Ishmael and his mother and his wife and children afterward went and returned to the wilderness. And they made themselves tents in the wilderness in which they dwelt. And they continued to travel, and then to rest monthly and yearly. And God gave Ishmael flocks and herds and tents on account of Abraham his father, and the man increased his cattle. And Ishmael dwelt in the desert and in tents, traveling and resting for a long time, and he did not see the face of his father. And in some time after, Abraham said to Sarah his father, I will go and see my son Ishmael, for I have desired to see him, for I have not seen him for a long time. And Abraham rode upon one of his camels to the wilderness to seek his son Ishmael, for he heard that he was dwelling in a tent in the wilderness with all belonging to him. And Abraham went to the wilderness, and he reached the tent of Ishmael about noon, and he asked after Ishmael, and he found the wife of Ishmael sitting in the tent with her children, and Ishmael, her husband, and his mother were not with them. And Abraham asked the wife of Ishmael, saying, Where has Ishmael gone? And she said, He has gone to the field to hunt. And Abraham was still mounted upon the camel, for he would not get off to the ground, as he had sworn to his wife Sarah, that he would not get off from the camel. And Abraham said to Ishmael's wife, My daughter, give me a little bread that I may drink, for I am fatigued from the journey. And Ishmael's wife answered and said to Abraham, We have neither water nor bread. And she continued sitting in the tent and did not notice Abraham. She continued sitting in the tent and did not notice Abraham, neither did she ask him who he was. But she was beating her children in the tent, and she was cursing them, and she also cursed her husband Ishmael, and reproached him. And Abraham heard the words of Ishmael's wife to her children, and he was very angry and displeased. And Abraham called to the woman to come out to him from the tent, and the woman came and stood opposite to Abraham, for Abraham was still mounted upon the camel. And Abraham said to Ishmael's wife, When thy husband Ishmael returneth home, say these words to him, A very old man from the land of Palestine came hither to seek thee, and thus was his appearance and figure. I did not ask him who he was, and seeing thou wast not here, he spoke unto me and said, When Ishmael thy husband return, tell him this did this man say, When thou comest home, put away this nail of the tent which thou hast placed here, and place another nail in its stead. And Abraham finished his instructions to the woman, and he turned and went off on the camel homeward. And after that, Ishmael come from the chase, he and his mother had returned to the tent, and his wife spoke these words to him. A very old man from the land of Palestine came to seek thee, and thus was his appearance and figure. I did not ask him who he was, and seeing thou wast not at home, he said to me, When thy husband cometh home, tell him, Thus saith the old man, put away the nail of saith the old man, put away the nail of the tent which thou hast placed here, and place another nail in its stead. And Ishmael heard the words of his wife, and he knew that it was his father, and that his wife did not honor him. And Ishmael understood his father's words that he had spoken to his wife. And Ishmael hearkened to the voice of his father, and Ishmael cast off the woman, and she went away. And Ishmael afterwards went to the land of Canaan, and he took another wife, and he brought her to his tent, to the place where he then dwelt. And at the end of the years, Abraham said, I will go again and see Ishmael my son, for I have not seen him for a long time. And he rode upon his camel and went to the wilderness, and he reached the tent of Ishmael about noon. And he asked after Ishmael, and his wife came out of the tent, and she said, He is not here, my lord, for he has gone to hunt in the fields and to feed the camels. And the woman said to Abraham, Turn in, my lord, into the tent and eat a morsel of bread, for thy soul must be wearied on the account of the journey. And Abraham said to her, I will not stop, for I am in haste to continue my journey, but give me a little water to drink, for I have, let me turn the page 1 second. I have thirst. And the woman hastened and ran into the tent, and she brought out water and bread to Abraham, which she placed before him. And she urged him to eat, and he ate and drank, and his heart was comforted, and he blessed his son Ishmael. And he finished his meal, and he blessed the Lord. And he said to Ishmael's wife, When Ishmael come home, say these words to him. A very old man from the land of Palestine come hither and asked after thee, and thou wast not here. And I brought him out bread and water, and he ate and drank, and his heart was comforted. And he spoke these words to me, When Ishmael thy husband cometh home, say unto him, The nail of the tent which thou hast is very good. Do not put it away from the tent. And Abraham finished commanding the woman, and he rode off to his home, to the land of Palestine. And when Ishmael came to his tent, his wife went forth to meet him with joy and a cheerful heart. And she said to him, An old man came here from the land of Palestine, and thus was his appearance, and he asked after thee, and thou wast not here. So I brought out bread and water, and he ate and drank, and his heart was comforted. And he spoke these words to me, When Ishmael thy husband cometh home, say to him, The nail of the tent which thou hast is very good. Do not put it away from the tent. And Ishmael knew that it was his father, and that his wife had honored him, and the Lord blessed Ishmael. Okay, I'm going to continue on chapter 22, and that's page 60, and I'm just going to read a little bit of it. So it says, And Ishmael then rose up, and took his wife, and his children, and his cattle, and all belonging to him, and he journeyed from there, and he went to his fathers in the land of the Palestine. And Abraham related to Ishmael, his son, the transaction with the first wife that Ishmael took according to what she did. And Ishmael and his children dwelt with Abraham many days in that land, and Abraham dwelt in the land of the Palestines a long time. Now we're going to go to another chapter. Actually, not another chapter, same chapter, 22, but verse 40, which is on page 62 in the Book of Jasher. So now we're going to skip ahead a little bit to when Isaac, is much older. And let's look. And Isaac, the son of Abraham, was growing up in those days. And Abraham, his father, taught him the way of the Lord, to know the Lord, and the Lord was with him. And when Isaac was 37 years old, Ishmael, his brother, was going about with him in the tent. And Ishmael boasted of himself to Isaac, saying, I was 13 years old when the Lord spoke to my father to circumcise us, and I did according to the word of the Lord, which he spoke to my father. And I gave my soul unto the Lord, and I did not transgress this word which he commanded my father. And Isaac answered Ishmael, saying, Why dost thou boast to me about this, about a little bit of thy flesh, which thou didst take from thy body, concerning which the Lord commanded thee? As the Lord liveth, the God of my father Abraham of the Lord should say unto my father, Take now thy son Isaac, and bring him up an offering before me. I would not refrain, but I would joyfully accede to it. And the Lord heard the words that Isaac spoke to Ishmael, and it seemed good in the sight of the Lord. And he thought to try Abraham in this matter. And the day arrived when the sons of God came and placed themselves before the Lord. And Satan also came with the sons of God before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down it. And the Lord said to Satan, What is thy word to me concerning all the children of the earth? And Satan answered the Lord and said, I have seen all the children of the earth who serve thee and remember thee when they require anything from thee, and when thou givest them the thing which they require from thee, they sit at their ease and forsake thee, and they remember thee no more. Hast thou seen Abraham, the son of Terah, who at first had no children, and he served thee, and erected altar to thee wherever he came, and he brought up offerings upon them, and he proclaimed thy name continually to all the children of the earth. And now that his son Isaac is born to him, he has forsaken thee. He has made a great feast for all the inhabitants of the land, and the Lord he has forgotten. For amidst all that he has done, he brought thee no offering, neither burnt offering, nor peace offering, neither ox, lamb, nor goat, of all that he killed on the day that his son was weaned. Even from the time of his son's birth till now, being 37 years, he built no altar before thee, nor brought up any offering to thee, for he saw that thou didst give what he requested before thee, and he therefore forsook thee. And the Lord said to Satan, Hast thou thus considered my servant Abraham? For there is none like him upon earth, a perfect and upright man before me, one that feareth God and avoideth evil. As I liveth, where I as I liveth, were I to say unto him, bring up Isaac thy son before me, he would not withhold him from me. Much more, if I told him to bring up a burnt offering before me from his flocks or herds. And Satan answered the Lord and said, speak then now unto Abraham, as thou hast said, and thou wilt see whether he will not this day transgress and cast aside thy words. At the time the word of the Lord came to Abraham, and he said unto him, Abraham, and he said, Here I am. And he said to him, take now thy son, thy only son, whom thou lovest, even Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which shall be shown to thee, for there wilt thou see a cloud and the glory of the Lord. Hold on a second here, because I'm getting another precept. Running through my brain. I love how it works. This has to be around the same time of Job. Why do I say this? I'm saying this because Satan came to and from. One moment. Here we go. In the Bible, Job 1 verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down it. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil? Something like that. Let me see. He says, then Satan answered the Lord and said, doeth Job fear God or not? Hast not thou made an hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath in every side? Thou hast blessed the works of his hand, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said to Satan, behold, all that he hath is in thy power, only upon himself put not forth thy hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. And there was a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine, and the eldest brother of the house. And there came a messenger unto Job and said that the oxen were plowing and the asses feeding beside them. Okay, so when looking at that, we know that the whole situation from when Satan was going up there, talking about Abraham's son Isaac, and talking about Abraham, he also was discussing Job too, because he came up there to discuss the children of the earth, so that he could be testing people. So what was going on with Job was going on at the same time as with Abraham and Abraham's son getting ready to get tested. And because Ishmael and Isaac were having that conversation, and basically, when Ishmael was sitting there boasting about the circumcision, and Isaac's like, yo, let's talk about something now. Like, if the Most High was, if I was to be like, yo, put me up as an offering, I'm gonna go up there. I'm not gonna move. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let my father sacrifice me. That's what it comes down to. And so when Ahiah heard that and hearkened to it, he said he thought to test this. and he wanted to test it. So he did so. That's amazing right there. But that also teaches you and proves to you to, you know, be careful of the stuff of what comes out your mouth, because yes, the Most High does hear, and you will get, yes, you will, he will test these things, because it says it right here. We'll pull it right back up. It says, and the Lord heard the words that Isaac spoke to Ishmael, and it seemed good in the sight of the Lord, and he thought to try Abraham in this matter. So the whole reason why Abraham had to be tried for all of this, it wasn't, you see, when you just read the Bible itself, you think it's because he had to send off Ishmael, so, you know, the Most High wanted to see if he was still on team Ahia. But that's not the case at all at hand. I mean, yes, it's a good test for Abraham, because he could be, you know, feeling some type of way, but he wasn't going to be feeling no type of way, because look at the situation that was happening and evolving there. The reason why he got casted out anyway to begin with was because he took a bow and he tried to slay Isaac with it, you know, and so that's why he got cast off, and that's the promise right there. So, you know, Abraham don't want nothing to happen to that, so that's why he got, you know, cast off for that. So he wasn't going to be feeling no type of way. So when you look at the story at hand, the whole reason why is because the very words that Isaac spoke, Isaac was being tested at the same time, and it let the Most High know that Abraham wouldn't even withhold the only son that he got. You know what I'm saying? Well, not the only son that he got, but the only promised child, let's put it like that he has right now. You know what I'm saying? To the promise. So, I just think that that's a very great lesson. But let me get back into this story right here. Okay, so back to continuing. It was chapter 25. And we are on verse 2, but I'll just pick back up. It says, and he said to him, take now thy son, thy only son, whom thou lovest, even Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him therefore a burnt offering upon one of the mountains, which shall be shown to thee, for there wilt thou see a cloud and the glory of the Lord. So we know Wawawak Kadesh is going to be there, our mother wisdom. It says, and Abraham said within himself, how shall I separate my son Isaac from Sarah his mother, in order to bring him up for a burnt offering before the Lord? And Abraham came into the tent, and he sat before Sarah his wife, and he spoke these words to her, my son Isaac is grown up, and he has not for some time studied the service of his God. Now tomorrow I will go and bring him to Shem and Eber his son, and there he will learn the ways of the Lord, for they will teach him to know the Lord, as well as to know that when he prayeth continually before the Lord, he will answer him. Therefore, there he will know the way of serving the Lord his God. And Sarah said, thou hast spoken well. Go my Lord, and do unto him as thou hast said, but remove him not at a great distance from me, neither let him remain there too long, and my soul is bound within his soul. And Abraham said unto Sarah, my daughter, let us pray to the Lord our God, that he may do good with us. And Sarah took her son Isaac, and he abided all that night with her, and she kissed and embraced him, and gave him instructions till morning. And she said to him, O my son, how can my soul separate itself from thee? And she still kissed him and embraced him, and she gave Abraham instructions concerning him. And Sarah said to Abraham, O my Lord, I pray thee, take heed of thy son, and place thine eyes over him, for I have no other son nor daughter but him. O forsake him not. If he be hungry, give him bread, and if he be thirsty, give him water to drink. Do not let him go on foot, neither let him sit in the sun, neither let him go by himself in the road, neither force him from whatever he may desire, but do unto him as he may say to thee. And Sarah wept bitterly the whole night on the account of Isaac, and she gave him instructions till morning. And in the morning Sarah selected a very fine and beautiful garment from those garments which she had in the house with Amalek had given to her. And she dressed Isaac her son therewith, and he put a turban upon his head, and she enclosed a precious stone in the top of the turban, and she gave him provisions for the road. And they went forth, and Isaac went with her father Abraham. Isaac went with his father Abraham, and some of their servants accompanied them to see them off the road. And Sarah went out with them, and she accompanied them upon the road to see them off. And they said to her, Return to the tent. And when Sarah heard the words of her son Isaac, she wept bitterly, and Abraham her husband wept with her, and their son wept with them, a great weeping also. Those who went with him wept greatly. And Sarah caught hold of her son Isaac, and she held him in her arms, and they embraced him and continued to weep with him. And Sarah said, Who knoweth if after this day I shall ever see thee again? And they still wept together. 1 second, move my little sticky tab. Abraham and Isaac and all those that accompanied them on that road wept with them. And Sarah afterward turned away from her son, weeping bitterly, and all his men servants and maidservants returned with her to the tent. And Abraham went with Isaac his son to bring him up as an offering before the Lord, and as he had commanded him. And Abraham took 2 of his young men with him, Ishmael and the son of Hagar, and Eliezer his servant, and they went together with them. And whilst they were walking in the road, the young man spoke these words to themselves. And Ishmael said to Eliezer, Now my father Abraham is going with Isaac to bring him up for a burnt offering to the Lord, as he commanded him. Now when he returneth, he will give unto me all that he possesses to inherit after him, and I am his firstborn. And Eliezer answered Ishmael and said, Surely Abraham did cast thee away with thy mother, and swear that thou shouldest not inherit anything of all all that he possesses. And to whom will he give all that he has with all his treasures, but unto me, his servant, who has been faithful in his house, who has served him night and day, and has done all that he desired me. To me will he bequeath at his death all that he possesses. You know, I have to pause for like a second on that. Like, how do you sit here and plot on someone? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know somebody going to be given up as an offering, and you're over here thinking about what you're going to collect. And here Ishmael's thinking that he's going to get whatever, you know, and inherit. And then the servant thinks he's going to get whatever, because he's like, no, you ain't going to get it, Ishmael, you know. Like, it just shows you the mindset of people and how rude they can be. And it's just like, really? Anyway, I just found it hilarious. Like, I can't believe they even really going there. Alright, let me continue. And while Abraham was proceeding with his son Isaac along the road, Satan came and appeared to Abraham in the figure of a very aged man, humble and of contrite spirit. And he approached Abraham and said to him, Art thou silly or brutish that thou goest to do this thing this day to thine only son? For God gave thee a son in thy latter days, in thy old age, and wilt thou go and slaughter him this day, because he committed a violence, and wilt thou call? I'm sorry, I'm all off. For God gave thee a son in thy later day, in thy old age, and wilt thou go and slaughter him this day, because he committed no violence? And wilt thou cause the soul of thy only son to perish from the earth? Dost thou not know and understand that this thing cannot be from the Lord? For the Lord cannot do unto him such evil upon earth, to say to him, Go slaughter thy child. And Abraham heard this, and knew that it was the words of Satan, who endeavored to draw him aside from the way of the Lord. But Abraham would not hearken to the voice of Satan, and Abraham rebuked him, so that he went away. And Satan returned and came to Isaac, and he appeared unto Isaac in the figure of a young man, comely and well favored. And he approached Isaac and said unto him, Dost thou not know and understand that thy old silly father bringeth thee to the slaughter this day for naught? Now therefore, my son, do not listen nor attend to him, for he is a silly old man, and let not thy precious soul and beautiful figure be lost from the earth. And Isaac heard this, and said unto Abraham, Hast thou heard, my father, that which this man has spoken? Even thus has he spoken. And Abraham answered his son Isaac, and said to him, Take heed of him, and do not listen to his words, nor attend to him, for he is Satan, endeavoring to draw us aside this day from the command of God. And Abraham still rebuked Satan, and Satan went from them. One second, let me change the page. Went from them, and seeing he could not prevail over them, he hid himself from them, and he went and passed before them in the road. And he transformed himself to a large brook of water in the road. And Abraham and Isaac and his 2 young men reached the place, and they saw a brook large and powerful as the mighty waters. And they entered the brook and passed through it, and the waters at first reached their legs, and they went deeper in the brook, and the water reached up to their necks. And they were all terrified on the account of the water. And whilst they were going over the brook, Abraham recognized that place, and he knew that there was no water there before. And Abraham said to his son Isaac, I know this place, in which there was no brook nor water. Now therefore it is this Satan who does all this to us, to draw us aside this day from the command of God. And Abraham rebuked him, and said unto him, The Lord rebuke thee, O Satan. Be gone from us, for we go by the command of God. And Satan was terrified at the voice of Abraham, and he went away from them, and placed again. He went away from them, and the place again became dry land, as it was at first. And Abraham went with Isaac towards the place that God had told him. And on the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw the place at a distance which God had told him of. And the pillar of fire appeared to him that reached from the earth to heaven, and a cloud of glory up on the mountain. And the glory of the glory of the Lord was seen in a cloud. And Abraham said to Isaac, my son, dost thou see in the mountain which we perceive at a distance that which I see upon it? And Isaac answered and said unto his father, I see, and lo, a pillar of fire and a cloud, and the glory of the Lord is seen upon the cloud. And Abraham knew that his son Isaac was accepted before the Lord for a burnt offering. And Abraham said unto Eliezer and unto Ishmael his son, do you also see that which we see up upon the mountain, which is at a distance? And they answered and said, we see nothing more than like the other mountains of the earth. And Abraham knew that they were not accepted before the Lord to go with them. And Abraham said to them, abide ye here with the ass, whilst I and Isaac my son will go to yonder mount and worship there before the Lord, and then return to you. And Eliezer and Ishmael remain in the place as Abraham had commanded. And Abraham took wood for a burnt offering and placed it upon his son Isaac, and he took the fire and the knife, and they both went to the place. And when they were going along, Isaac said to his father, behold, I see here the fire and wood, and whence then is the lamb that is to be the burnt offering before the Lord? And Abraham said his son Isaac, saying, the Lord has made choice of thee, my son, to be a perfect burnt offering instead of the lamb. And Isaac said unto his father, I will do all that the Lord spoke. Give me 1 second. Move the sticky tab again. And spoke to thee with joy and cheerfulness of heart. And Abraham again said unto Isaac his son, is there in thy heart any thought or counsel concerning this which is not proper? Tell me, my son, I pray thee. O my son, conceal it not from me. And Isaac answered his father Abraham and said unto him, O my father, as the Lord liveth, and also thy soul liveth, there is nothing in my heart to cause me to deviate either to the right or to the left from the word that he has spoken to thee. Neither limb nor muscle has moved or stirred at this, nor is there in my heart any thought or evil counsel concerning this. But I am of joyful and cheerful heart in this matter, and I say, blessed is the Lord who has this day chosen me to be a burnt offering before him. And Abraham greatly rejoiced at the words of Isaac, and they went and came together to the place that the Lord had spoken of. And Abraham approached to build the altar in the place, and Abraham was weeping. And Isaac took stones and mortars unto they have finished building the altar. And Abraham took the wood and placed it in order upon the altar which he had built. And he took his son Isaac and bound him in order to place him upon the wood which was upon the altar, to slay him for a burnt offering before the Lord. And Isaac said to his father, bind me securely, and then place me upon the altar, lest I should turn and move and break loose from the force of the knife upon my flesh, and thereby profane the burnt offering. And Abraham did so. And Isaac still said to his father, O my father, when thou shalt have slain me and burnt me for an offering, take with thee that which shall remain of my ashes, to bring to Sarah my mother, and say to her, this is the sweet smelling savor of Isaac. But do not tell her this if she should sit near a well, or upon any high place, lest she would cast her soul after me and die. And Abraham heard the words of Isaac, and he lifted up his voice and wept when Isaac spake these words. And Abraham's tears gushed down upon Isaac his son, and Isaac wept bitterly. And he said to his father, Hasten thou, O my father, and do with me that will of the Lord our God, and he has commanded thee. Okay. And he has commanded thee. And the hearts of Abraham and Isaac rejoiced at this thing which the Lord had commanded them. But the eyes wept bitterly, whilst the heart rejoiced. And Abraham bound his son Isaac and placed him on the altar upon the wood. And Isaac stretched forth his neck upon the altar before his father, and Abraham stretched forth his hand to take the knife to slay his son as a burnt offering before the Lord. At that time the angel of mercy came before the Lord and spake to him concerning Isaac, saying, O Lord, thou art a merciful and compassionate king over all that thou hast created in heaven and in earth, and thou supportest them all. Give therefore ransom a redemption instead of thy servant Isaac, and pity and have compassion upon Abraham. 1 second, I gotta change the page. It's getting juicy. He's trying to go up as a sacrifice, and he's happy doing it. That speaks 1,000 words. Abraham, and upon Isaac his son, who are this day performing thy commands. Hast thou seen, O Lord, how Isaac the son of Abraham thy servant is bound down to the slaughter like an animal? Now therefore let thy pity be roused for them, O Lord. At that time the Lord appeared unto Abraham and called to him from heaven, and said unto him, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him, for now I know that thou fearest God in performing this act, and in not withholding thy son, thy only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, a ram was caught in the thickets by the horns. That was the ram which the Lord God had created in the earth in the day that he made earth and heaven. For the Lord had prepared this ram from the day to be a burnt offering instead of Isaac. And this ram was advancing to Abraham when Satan caught hold of him and entangled his horns in the thickets, that he might not advance to Abraham, in order that Abraham might slay his son. And Abraham, seeing the ram advancing to him, and Satan withholding him, fetched him and brought him before the altar. And he loosened his son Isaac from his binding, and he put the ram in his stead. And Abraham killed the ram upon the altar and brought it up as an offering in the place of his son Isaac. And Abraham sprinkled some of the blood of the ram upon the altar, and he exclaimed and said, This is in the place of my son, and may this be considered this day as the blood of my son before the Lord. And all that Abraham did on this occasion by the altar, he would exclaim and say, This is in the room of my son, and may it this day be considered before the Lord in the place of my son. And Abraham finished the whole of the service by the altar, and the service was accepted before the Lord, and was accounted as if it had been Isaac. And the Lord blessed Abraham and his seed on that day. And Satan went to Sarah, and he appeared to her in the figure of an old man, very humble and meek, and Abraham was yet engaged in the burnt offering before the Lord. And he said unto her, Dost thou not know all the works that Abraham has made with thy only son this day? For he took Isaac and built an altar and killed him and brought him up as a sacrifice upon the altar. And Isaac cried and wept before his father, but he looked not at him, neither did he have compassion over him. And Satan repeated these words, and he went away from her. And Sarah heard all the words of Satan, and she imagined him to be an old man from among the sons of men, who had been with her son, and had come and told her these things. And Sarah lifted up her voice and wept and cried out bitterly on the account of her son. And she threw herself upon the ground, and she cast dust upon her head, and she said, O my son Isaac, my son, oh, that I had this day died instead of thee. And she continued to weep, and said, It grieves me for thee, O my son Isaac, oh, that I had died this day in thy stead. And she still continued to weep, and said, It grieves me for thee, after that I have reared thee, and have brought thee up. Now my joy is turned into mourning over thee. I that had a longing for thee, and cried and prayed to God till I bare thee at 90 years old. And now hast thou served this day for the knife and the fire to be made an offering. But I console myself with thee, my son, in its being the word of the Lord, for thou didst perform the command of thy God. For who can transgress the word of our God in those hands, in the soul of every living creature? Thou art just, O Lord, our God, for all thy works are good and righteous. For I also am rejoiced with thy words, which thou didst command, and willest my eyes weepeth bitterly, my heart rejoiceth. And Sarah laid her head upon the bosom of one of her handmaids, and she became as still as a stone. She afterwards rose up and went about making inquiries till she came to Hebron, and she inquired of all those whom she met walking in the road, and no one could tell her what had happened to her son. And she came with her maid servants and men servants to Kirith Arba, which is Hebron. And she asked concerning her son, and she remained there while she sent some of her servants to seek where Abraham had gone with Isaac. They went to seek him in the house of Shem and Eber, and they could not find him. And they sought throughout the land, and he was not there. And behold, Satan came to Sarah in the shape of an old man, and he came and stood before her, and he said unto her, I spoke falsely unto thee, for Abraham did not kill his son, and he is not dead. And when she heard the words, her joy was so exceedingly violent, and on account of her son, that her soul went out through joy. She died and was gathered to her people. And when Abraham had finished his service, he returned with his son Isaac to his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba, and they came home. And Abraham sought for Sarah and could not find her, and he made inquiries concerning her, and they said unto him, She went as far as Hebron to seek you. Both were where you had gone, for thus was she informed. And Abraham and Isaac went to her to Hebron, and when they found that she was dead, they lifted up their voice and wept bitterly over her. And Isaac fell upon his mother's face and wept over her. And he said, "O my mother, how hast thou left me, and where hast thou gone? O how hast thou left me?" And Abraham and Isaac wept greatly, and all the servants wept with them on the account of Sarah, and they mourned after her a great and heavy mourning. And the life of Sarah was 127 years, and Sarah died. And Abraham rose up from before the dead to seek a burial place to bury his wife Sarah. And he went and spoke to the children of Heth, the inhabitants of the land, saying, I am a stranger that sojourneth with you in your land. Give me possession of a burial place in your land, that I may bury my dead from before me. So, after reading all of that, you see just how cunning the enemy is. Like, he came and fed that stuff to Sarah, and she thought he was telling her, she thought her son was gone, and she was going to inquire about everything. And then he comes back and tells her, oh, it didn't happen. And she drops dead from the joy of knowing that her son is alive. Sarah is a great person to look at, as a role model. She had faults about her. I think after, reading in the story of Abraham and stuff, I think that where they fell short at would be the fact that they didn't have enough faith to just sit still and wait for the Most High to do their thing. I find that this is one of the things that happen with the children of Israel. When the Most High says He's going to give us a blessing, we tend to try to force it to happen faster than what He wants it, and it gets us in trouble. In that case, when the Most High said He was going to give Abraham children and so forth, they didn't have enough faith, to believe that she was going to give him a child. Thus, her giving Hagar to Abraham, thus getting jealous that she got pregnant. So now, she done created this big mess, and now she's mad that she ever did it. And as an end result, now we have to, go through Jacob's trouble dealing with our own half-brethren or whatever trying to kill us, So, all of that probably could have been avoided and never have happened had they just stayed put and had a little bit more faith in the Most High. When He says He's going to do something, He's going to do something. And when He says the promise, when He said it would, the promise was with, Sarah's seed, Abraham's seed, Isaac, the promise being with Isaac. You have Ishmael, who now is jealous, feeling that he should have the promise, that the promise should belong to him, and, he just keeps growing up trying to, slay his own brother, just trying to get the goods, and, it's just, I feel sad for our people, because we have to suffer, for the faults of our fathers, we suffer from the sins of our forefathers and stuff. But it goes to show you, people are still great. They can be, the Most High will build a person up great, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to have mistakes about them. She's a good woman to, look up to when you look at Sarah. But I would say that the best couple to ever look at is the main couple, period, which is the couple that we seek to be with, which is the Most High, and then, the Holy Spirit, Rawak. that would be the best ideal couple to look at, because she knows everything that the Most High likes. Um, we're literally here begging to be with them, you know what I'm saying, and trying to do everything to make it right with them, you know, because they're perfection, you know, at its finest, and we represent them. And I think that, you know, the best helpmate for us women to look at is Rawak. She's down here being our comforter. She's doing, you know, the most. She's helping the Most High in work. You know what I'm saying? She, you know, is doing her man a great justice. You know what I'm saying? And helping her children out. So I think that we should take a deeper look at the Holy Spirit and try to be some, you know, be more as she would, you know, have us be, follow the law, statutes, and commandments, and so forth. So I just wanted to share that, you know, give people a little in-depth look, you know, saying at Abraham and Sarah, and I'm gonna go through, you know, Jasher with different different parts of the Bible and see what other precepts I might end up connecting, you know, since, you know, if I got wisdom, I might as well, you know, connect them precepts, you know, and find out stuff. But I just wanted to share that, and I'll probably, I know I definitely want to do something on Jacob, you know. Yeah, like I want to do something on Jacob. I'm just gonna figure out what, I'll just take it slowly, whatever Ruach puts on my spirit to do or whatnot. But tonight it was this, and so she was like, she wants this done, so by her command I do so. And I hope that I did a good job. There's people out there that, you know, don't have the Book of Jasher, so it's, I know for them, they get to hear this, it's going to be an amazing experience. Like, yo, I didn't know all of that, you know what I'm saying? And you get to see just how cunning the snake is, you know what I'm saying? And just have a look and a glance at stuff in the movement, and just how our people are, you know what I'm saying? But I try to observe everything. So I hope you enjoyed the story. It is 4:51 in the morning. I'm about to finish resting on my Sabbath, and, you know, but I had to get my edification in. So I hope this helps and gives you a deeper look. Shema Yashra Allah Ahaya Allah Haya Nawa Ahaya Akkad. The Wada for listening, and have a great Shabbat, everybody. And I'm just gonna go ahead and give all glory and praise to the Most High, Yahya Bahashim Yeshaya, and I want to ask him to bless those who are trying to come to him, and just to hear our cries and get us through this Jacob's trouble. In the name of Yahya Bahashim Yeshaya, Wawa Kodesh. Amen. And one more thing, I just wanted to show y'all that, you know, so the Most High will, you know, use women, you know what I'm saying, to do some of his works. And, you know, in Sarah's case, her beauty, you know what I'm saying, helped out a lot. So, you know, he does raise up women, and occasionally their beauty is, you know what I'm saying, like, they do stand out and stuff. But you know, keep yourself well covered. You don't have to show the whole world everything. You know, it seems to be a problem with our people. Everybody they don't leave nothing to the imagination or whatever. Having a pretty face is good enough, but you know, we don't have to be conceited. But sometimes the Most High will use a beautiful woman and make her stand out to get anything that he needs done. So there's fact in that. You see how he used Sarah. It brought riches to Abraham. And there's other women that were beautiful that he used, you know what I'm saying, too. So we can get into some of those stories too. But I just wanted to share with y'all, like, yeah, women, we much more, you know what I'm saying, than the meat this world likes to put on us as far as body-wise and stuff like that. You know, you're a woman, if, you know what I'm saying, our mother is Rawak. Let's try to act more as she would like us to, you know, and bring to the table all that we can be as a godly woman. So, with that said, hope this helps again, and Shabbat Shalom.